Hello and welcome to our fourth follow-up session for the Bringing Digital Learning into the History Classroom series. And this week's follow-up session is going to be focused on the Library of Congress resources that we discussed last week with Richard Cairn, and we had our guest speaker from East Boston, Garcia del Son. And so today really is just going to be a quick broadcast, kind of going over some of the different elements that we talked about last week. Remember, the Library of Congress has an extensive collection of resources digitally, and not only resources for the students to use, but also resources for you to use as a teacher to help with your planning. They have a wide collection of primary source analysis tools that you as a teacher can actually use within the classroom. I mean, if you recall last week, we took the time to kind of test out one of those primary source analysis tools through a Google Sheets, and allowing us to think about that, this audio clip that we listened to last session. Now, one thing that we really wanted to reiterate from last week's session was the importance of inquiry in primary sources. So as Richard Cairn put in his slides last week, it's not enough for students to look to primary sources to answer teachers' questions or textbook questions. Really, we want to teach our students to look up primary sources and come up with their own questions and their own wonderings. And with this is a point that I wanted to reiterate because it came out of Exit Tickets, kind of, why is it important to use primary sources and how can we strengthen that within the classroom? So we can use when we think about primary sources, there's the traditional give students a primary source, give them a list of questions, and have them just respond. But that's not really promoting our students' inquiry and deepening their understanding. So what we really want to do is we want to make sure that we're challenging them to do the thinking. And it can be challenging to use primary sources in the classroom because you never know if the students are going to pick up on all of the different elements that you know are essential in those primary sources. So today, one of your assignments is going to be doing a little bit of reflection. What successes have you experienced using primary sources with students? And what challenges have you experienced with using primary sources? And then how could you incorporate more primary sources into your lessons? So this is really just taking the time to kind of step back and think about your practice. We know it's not easy to incorporate primary sources. So think about, was there a time when something really went well, when you handed kids a fabulous map and they were able to unpack all the different elements, get the underlying factors, and you left that lesson giving yourself a little pat on the back saying, yeah, I did a pretty good job there. And then any challenges, anything that you gave to students that just you thought was going to go one way and didn't quite go there. So really taking some time to think about that. Now, you'll see in the Google Classroom, I've also provided 2 articles from the National Council of the Social Studies. One article is just providing you some different examples of ways you could use primary sources. And then another example is different ways that you can adapt primary sources, because that's also another challenge that we face, because in our classrooms, we have all types of learners, and we want to make sure that we're providing access to the primary sources. And so Sam Weinberg really takes the time and points out some different strategies that you can use to adapt primary sources to kind of still keep the essence of a primary source, but make it accessible for the students in your classroom. Now, remember, with the Library of Congress website, there's lots of different areas that you can go to, and Richard Cairn created this nice graphic in terms of using the Library of Congress kind of like a map and different ways that you can approach it. Okay. And the primary source sets. Remember, Garcia del Son was sharing the different primary source sets that teachers who are participating in the History in Motion course put together. And all of those primary source sets we've actually downloaded and we've placed into a Google folder in the Drive. If you did not get a chance to explore them yet, please take the time to do so. There's really some great collections in there. Whether you use all 10 documents in the set is kind of irrelevant, but if you want to pick 2 or 3, you have some images that are grouped together by topics and themes that you can incorporate easily into your classroom. And remember, on the teachers page within the Library of Congress website, there are some amazing resources there. You can search by standards. So remember, you have the option to search by standards to help with that alignment. You also have lesson plans. This is another place to find some primary source sets and other classroom resources just like I had mentioned earlier, some of those primary source analysis tools as well. Okay. Remember, we also had a very nice discussion on modeling how to do a search, the importance of what you're searching in the Library of Congress website. The way you use your word search, whether you're using key terms, what key terms you're specifically using surrounding a topic is going to bring you to different documents and different resources in different directions. So really making sure that in your classroom, you're encouraging students to challenge themselves to use different kind of searches in order to get the information that they want, rather than just searching World War II and having this big, broad topic, really honing in on different elements that you want to point out within those bigger topics. And again, there's some nice steps on generating search terms that was in the presentation from last week. And that pretty much does our overview for today. Just a reminder, in today's session, you do have 4 activities. You have really just a quick introduction. Then you're going to do the primary source reflection. And then your next activity is going to be creating a student assignment. I've created another Google Doc and really given you some descriptions of different strategies that we've already used so far, but really challenging yourself to think about how you can use different Google apps and different Google tools, or using Padlet to utilize primary sources within your classroom, whether it's posting one primary source image into Padlet and having students provide different analysis themselves, or if it's simply posting, giving everyone individual copies of a primary source and having them write up a description of what they're seeing, what questions they're wondering, what they observe. So really giving you a chance to think about something you could actually apply in your classroom. As you create that assignment, think about also how you're going to collect student work. One thing that we're probably going to set up for the next Hangout session, the next follow-up session, is a time for people to share student work again. I know we did that earlier in the session, and we want to make sure that we're taking time to look at student work, look at what's been successful in our classrooms, and look what we're really proud of, and we want to be sharing the great things that are happening. If you have any questions, I will be available online, and I hope you enjoy the articles, enjoy the activity, and this short follow-up session. Okay, have a good evening.